Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Tuning in to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Alex. Today, I want to talk to you guys about how music can impact our health and wellness. Music is something that is very human, and almost all cultures have music. They create their own music. That's been true throughout history and different people's lifespans. So as humans, even if we are not necessarily able to carry a tune, we do often sing or hum or whistle or even clap and sway along with the music. The human brain and nervous system are actually wired to distinguish music from noise and to respond to rhythm and repetition, as well as melodies. So it's not entirely for certain whether this truly serves a biological or really evolutionary purpose, but varied groups of studies suggest that music may enhance human health and wellness. So how does music work? How does our body really perceive it? Well, just like any other type of sound, music comes to your ear as sound waves, and your external ear kind of collects those sound waves, and then your ear canal brings them into your eardrum. As those sound waves strike against your eardrum vibrates, and those vibrations are passed down along this chain of tiny bones until they reach the third bone, the stapes, in your middle ear. So it goes through the malleus, the incus, and the stapes, which are teeny tiny. And the stapes, the last one, connects to the cochlea. And your cochlea is a little unit that's filled with fluid and has 10,000 to 15,000 tiny hair cells or cilia that are on it. And when the stapes comes through and vibrates, it sends fluid waves through your cochlea, which is kind of shaped in a spiral, almost like some ammonite if you are familiar with different types of fossils. So those fluid waves also cause those hair cells to kind of sway. And then those cells release some neurotransmitters, so some chemicals, that activate your auditory nerve. And that in turn sends these tiny little electrical currents to your auditory cortex that's in the temporal lobe of your brain. So that temporal lobe is kind of on the sides. When people talk about where the temple is on their head, on their skull, that's really what they're referring to, is that kind of area on the side of your head. And your temporal bone actually also encompasses that little hard knob that you feel up behind your jaw. That is your mastoid process. So your temporal bone goes from that big old lump, that mastoid process, up and around to where people rub their heads when they say they have a headache in their temple area. Scientists are able to use MRI and PET scans, also known as positron emission tomography, to look at how your brain then reacts in that temporal lobe as it is getting those little electrical currents being applied to it. And what they found is that they think the nerve networks in different parts of your brain have the primary responsibilities for decoding and then interpreting different properties of music. So a small area in your right temporal lobe is really important for perceiving pitch. And pitch is important for melody. Melody is, in fact, just patterns of pitch that fluctuate over time, as well as chords, which are several pitches sounding at the same time. And if you play the guitar or the piano, then you know what I'm talking about. Of course, many other types of instruments also use chords, but if you think about a guitar, it has typically 6 strings, and you can actually play one string at a time. But usually you see people with multiple fingers down on the fretboard as they are strumming. And that is because they are playing chords. They're playing several different notes that are different pitches at the same time. You can also have that small area in your right temporal lobe help you out with harmony, which is 2 or more melodies at the same time, 2 or more different patterns of pitch that change over time that are going in and out, really weaving through each other. So another nearby center in your brain is responsible for decoding timbre. Timbre is really what helps your brain distinguish between different instruments that are played at the same note. And a different part of your brain, the cerebellum, processes rhythm for you. The frontal lobes process the emotional content of music, and music that can really make your spine tingle can actually light up your brain's reward center. Think about the way that you feel when you have chocolate. If chocolate is something that you very much enjoy, or ice cream, your favorite foods, things like that. And it kind of works that way in lighting up your brain's reward center. So any healthy human brain should be able to perform all of the tasks that are necessary for perceiving music. But the brains of musicians tend to be more finely attuned to those type of tasks. Now, at the other end of this broad spectrum, anyone who has brain damage, depending on the location and severity of the damage, might have some very different defects in musicality. There's even a very specialized field called the neurobiology of music. But it's not just neurobiology that music has an effect on in the human body. It can also have an effect on your health and wellness, from your memory to your mood to your cardiovascular function and how you perform as an athlete. Music can strongly influence our emotions, including strong emotions like joy or sadness or fear. And shows like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and other public broadcasting service shows have really illustrated to us as we were growing up how changing the music from a scary piece that's meant to elicit fear as you're watching something that is visually also supposed to be scary can really change in tone entirely just by changing the music into something that may be considered to be lighthearted or joyous. I remember that being illustrated on PBS to me as a young child, and it always really stuck with me. Music has power to move us as individuals, and a lot of researchers think that it can also improve our health and well-being. So I'm going to go ahead and list off a few of the ways that they believe this can be beneficial to us. And then in our next segments, we're going to talk about benefits of music therapy, how to keep your brain young with music, and some more intersections of music with health and wellness. So first up, music can improve your mood. And that may sound very straightforward and like something you already knew, but there's actually a lot of research behind that. It can help us regulate our emotions and promote happiness and relaxation in our lives. It can also reduce stress. Listening to relaxing music has been shown empirically to reduce stress and anxiety in healthy people, as well as in people undergoing medical procedures. That's why your doctor may play some low tempo, low pitch music with no lyrics sometimes when you are in your doctor's office. It can also lessen anxiety. They perform studies of people who have cancer, and for them, listening to music combined with standard care helped reduce anxiety compared to folks who receive standard care on its own. Music can also improve exercise. So if you feel like you get a really big boost from listening to music during your aerobic exercise, you're right. That is what's happening. It's boosting your mental and physical stimulation and just overall contributing to a more positive performance. It can also improve your memory. The repetitive elements of music, like rhythm and the melody, can help our brains form patterns that help our memory. So they did a study of stroke survivors and found that listening to music helped them experience more verbal memory, as well as less confusion, and it improved their attention and focus. Music can also ease pain. They have studied patients who are recovering from surgery who listen to music before, during, or after surgery, and they experienced less pain and reported more satisfaction overall when compared with patients who did not listen to music as part of their care program. Music has also been found to provide comfort, especially in studies of folks who have serious or terminal illnesses and are in end-of-life care. It can help with communication, coping, and expression of feelings that are often considered to be negative feelings that people bottle up, like fear and anger or loneliness. It can also improve cognition, including in folks with Alzheimer's, and it can help children on the autism spectrum disorder. So they've done some studies in kids who have autism, and they found that those who received music therapy showed improvement in their social responses, their attention, and their communication skills. It has also been found to soothe premature babies. So live music and lullabies can actually impact their vital signs, not just make them feel better, but it can also promote really good feeding behaviors and sucking patterns in premature infants, and it can increase prolonged periods of quiet but alert states. We're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how you can keep your brain young using music. Stay tuned.
Have you ever felt disconnected from others, especially when it came to your health, like you had no one you can turn and talk to? Well, luckily, myhealthteam.com had a vision of providing safe, objective, patient-driven social networks. Everything from lupus and multiple sclerosis to narcolepsy, Parkinson's, heart disease, and many more. MyHealthTeam.com is the largest and fastest growing portfolio of social networks serving the nearly 1 in 2 adults facing a chronic condition. Today, with millions of members, millions of conversations, and a library of condition-specific resources, My Health Team has become the fastest growing and most engaging set of social networks for web and mobile apps in healthcare. You guys are not alone, okay? Join an online support community at myhealthteam.com.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco, ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Are you looking to learn more about the latest trends from the fitness world? Are you confused by all of the different trends that are out there? The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place for you. The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place to come for people of all skill and interest levels. Join us as we explore the latest trends in the fitness world. Does that new exercise really work? Should I try yoga? Whatever your question, chances are good you'll find an answer on the GSMC Fitness Podcast.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were briefly covering the intersections between music and health and wellness, as several empirical studies have been looking at these links. Now we're going to discuss how to keep your brain young with music. And this isn't like a buzzword listicle, you guys. This article is from Johns Hopkins. So scientific research has shown that listening to music can give you a host of benefits in your body, and that means everything from anxiety and blood pressure reduction to better sleep, better mental alertness, memory, and of course, our moods. If you've ever stared out of a rainy window, listening to sad music and pretending that you're in a music video, then you know what I'm talking about. It can impact your mood in many different ways. And there are very few things that stimulate your brain in the same way that music does. By listening to music as you age, it can help give your brain a workout. So I know a few years back, everyone was really into brain teasers and the concept of trying to keep your brain young and alert by using it a lot for brain teasers. In the 90s, they were written out in little workbooks, and now a lot of them are in app form on our phones or tablets. But experts are still trying to understand how our brains really hear and play music. A stereo system can put vibrations through the air and get into your ear canal and make it sound like you are hearing music, because you are. You are perceiving it in that form. And you can also go see an artist live and hear that same song you've heard on the radio and recognize it as that same song, even though the way that those vibrations are traveling out may be a little different. So Johns Hopkins researchers have had a bunch of different performers who were doing jazz or rap music lie down inside a functional MRI machine to watch which areas of their brains lit up. So in this way, some of these doctors have said that music is structural, mathematical, and architectural, that there are real relationships between the notes. And although we may not be consciously aware of it, our brains do compute those changes to make sense of them and to compose music as well as to perform it or even improvise it, as was the case with the jazz performers and the rappers. But listening to music can also just give you an everyday brain boost. It can help jumpstart your creativity. So a lot of folks tend to listen to music along generational lines or along genre lines. And for most folks, it tends to be the music that we experience during our coming of age periods, our teens and our 20s. And those tend to be our favorite types of music, no matter which generation we're from. It's largely a nostalgia component, in my personal opinion. They've not said that in this research, but that is my reckoning for it. But keep in mind, that is an untested hypothesis. But new music can also challenge your brain in a way that old music can't. You might not like the current music that your kids or your grandkids or nieces and nephews are listening to, but that unfamiliarity with it forces your brain to try to understand the new sound. It's like exercising your muscles when you haven't exercised in a long time, wherever. Your body has to get used to that. Your brain has to get used to it, and it's going to struggle a little bit. But if you continue to apply yourself, then you will typically see results. It works the same way with music when it is new music you're being exposed to. So try some electronic grime, you guys. It's one of my favorites. A lot of folks are not into it, but it's partly about the spaces between the music, as I understand it. And I really love it in a very similar way to the way I love jazz. So go out and try it. It's possibly going to sound a little wacky at first. It's going to be different from what you may be used to listening to, but listen to it several times. It may very well grow on you. Music can also help us with our memory recall. If you are trying to remember something from a certain time period in your life, go ahead and listen to some familiar music that is from that era or from that trip. It's just like when you're regularly going about your life and you hear a song come on the radio that used to be a song that was you and someone you love's song, where every time you guys heard it, you're like, that's our song. And that can hit you out of nowhere. But you can also intentionally do it to maybe bring yourself back to the first time you saw your partner, or to help you remember something, a key detail from that time in your life. I don't mean to make it sound like hypnosis or anything like that, but it can really help you out in reminiscing. You can also listen to your body. Think about how you feel about different types of music and pick a kind that really works for you. And if you decide to branch out to a new style or genre of music, and by new, I mean new to you, then go ahead and maybe think about something that's closely adjacent to what you're already into. Maybe if you're into big band or, the jazz standards, you can try looking into another type of jazz. Or that joke that jazz is a good blues band that fell down the stairs. Maybe go with blues. Or if you were already into blues but not jazz, try jazz. If you're already into jazz or swing but you're not quite into electronic music, maybe try electro swing. Electro swing is one of my absolute favorites. And my godson came across my old iPod a few years back while he was visiting with me, and he got it to work, and he spent the entire time listening to electro swing. And before that, he was not into much other than hip-hop, R&B, and rap for the most part. I had him listen to some Bob Dylan, and he thought I was playing country music at that point, because even classic rock, anything that sounded like that, he was a little bit unfamiliar with, because his mom listens to it, but he doesn't. So he just classed everything that was soft rock or classic rock in with all of country. Americana, folk. Because he was unfamiliar with it, he classed it all together. But now he really likes electro swing. And his absolute favorite song is one of the songs by Tchaikovsky from the Nutcracker Suite. So he's really expanding and exploring these different styles of music. And one of his pet projects is that he likes to make beats. And now he has a whole nother way to sample music. By broadening his musical palette, he is able to sample from a ton of different genres and create some things that are wholly different from what a lot of music of his specific time period already sounds like. It's very cool to watch, and he may only be 12 years old, you guys, but that kid has a gift for making music. There is just something in his brain that allows him to write these things. And when you are trying to pick out that music for you, make sure you're thinking about the context in which you're using it. If it lights up your brain, then pick a time when you want to be energized to try listening to that kind of music. Maybe while you're cleaning or doing the dishes. Maybe while you're getting ready for a night out. But if you're trying to go ahead and get some work done, maybe go with something that works more for helping you concentrate. Because what helps one person concentrate might be very distracting to someone else. And the same thing goes for what helps people unwind and what makes them jumpy. So some folks like metal to unwind, and others are more into easy listening. It really just depends on the individual. We're gonna go on a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about the benefits of music therapy.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
about ways that music can help your brain stay young, like paying attention to what types of music your brain and body seem to already like and branching out from there and selecting music to explore in different contexts, as well as using music to recall memories or to jumpstart your creativity by listening to newer music. It doesn't mean you have to listen to it all the time, but every now and then it can be really good for your brain to really flex itself as a muscle, more or less. So now we're going to talk about the benefits of music therapy. Music therapy came about really after World War II, and folks found that the types and methods of music therapy in a variety of settings can have a large impact on folks who experience it. It's often used in conjunction with traditional therapy, so like talk therapy, positive psychology, or even a standalone intervention. And we're going to talk about the benefits today. There are 6 major health benefits of music therapy as recognized in the realm of psychology. That includes a reduction in anxiety and the physical effects of stress. It promotes healing. It can help manage Parkinson's and Alzheimer's diseases. It can also reduce depression and other symptoms, specifically in the elderly. It can also help to reduce symptoms of psychological disorders, including disorders such as schizophrenia. Lastly, music therapy can also improve self-expression and communication. So in this way, music therapy has really been shown to be beneficial in achieving lots of different objectives. So that can include motor function, social skills, emotions, coordination, self-expression, personal growth, and so on. Whatever your specific needs are for seeking out therapy, there may be a form of music therapy available for you. However, there are some typically common goals in music therapy, and a lot of those are related to emotional expression, cognitive skills like attention and concentration or sequencing, some physical skills like fine and gross motor movement, also sensory skills like touch, listening, being aware of your surroundings. It can improve social skills like making eye contact and turn-taking, and your self-esteem, as well as your communication skills like vocalizing and using certain gestures. So in addition to just making us feel happy and relaxed, music can also impact your perception. Getting training in music can also promote your skills in decoding musical features like pitch height and frequency modulation. So being exposed to music a lot can help you develop these skills. It's also varying in how it impacts the large range of your brain structures. So those fMRIs have also shown that listening to music can impact your core structures of emotional processing. Those are your limbic and paralimbic structures. And that is in both musicians and non-musicians. So just listening to music can also have this impact, as well as creating it or playing it. That's really important because our emotions are holistically tied to our health. You can have an impact of your emotions on your autonomic nervous system, your endocrine system, and your immune system. So music can modulate your emotions, and a lot of researchers are thinking that that means we can also use music therapy to treat disorders associated with hormonal dysfunctions and imbalances, or immune dysfunction and imbalances, and so on and so forth. So overall, what can we use music therapy for? Well, we can use that for movement and overall physical rehabilitation, as well as mental rehabilitation. So it can help us motivate folks to cope with their treatments. It can also help provide emotional support or an emotional outlet. If you have a traumatic brain injury or an acquired brain injury, then you do want to get a credentialed music therapist because they can work with patients with these issues. So music therapy can help you regain speech after you have an injury in the speech centers of your brain. It can also lessen the effects of dementia or even reduce asthma episodes in adults and children, as well as reduce pain in patients who are in the hospital. So music therapy has also been used, as we discussed previously, to help children with autism spectrum disorder improve their ability to communicate. Also, it can help premature infants improve their sleep patterns and increase their ability to gain weight. Did you know that your heartbeat actually changes to mimic the music that you listen to? If you're a DJ, you may already know that. But distinguishing changes in sound are also found to be equipped in developing fetuses as well. So you can go ahead and put those headphones onto your belly and give it a shot, you guys. Listening to different types of music can also impact how you perceive the world around you. If you can't get music out of your head, in my personal experience, I like to just sing out the earworms. So a lot of times, this is just my personal anecdotal experience. If I have a song stuck in my head, if I just pull up the lyrics to it and sing it all the way out, then it will typically get out of my head. But if I'm just stuck singing that same chorus or same couple of verses over and over again, that's when it really gets stuck. So, pro tip, next time that you have a song stuck in your head, try that out. And by pro tip, I mean completely amateur anecdotal tip. Now, if you are learning a new musical instrument, it can help you improve your fine motor skills as well as your reasoning skills. So if you're wanting to improve your fine motor skills or reasoning skills, you can also look at it the other way and go, hey, I'm going to work on this not just by reading about logic and reasoning, but I'm also going to learn a musical instrument. And just as learning to play an instrument can help you out with those fine motor skills, listening to relaxing music can also untense your muscles. It is a cheap alternative to a massage. Granted, it may not have all of the benefits of a massage, but it can help decrease the tension in your body and stress that perhaps you weren't even aware of. It can also give a boost to other stress-relieving activities, like practicing yoga, or, in my case, taking a hot bath. So one of the best things that I can do for myself is to hop into a hot bath with my Epsom salts and go ahead and listen to some relaxing music. It really helps untense my muscles, and it helps get rid of my migraines. Granted, I do have to play the music quite softly, but that's all right. I'm more light triggered than auditorily triggered for my migraines. So for me, that works really well. Music can also help boost your brain for reaching a meditative state and really promote relaxation in that way. If you're struggling with meditation, then listening to relaxing music might be an easier way to get into it. I personally am a fan of the different types of music at different hertz. So you can go into Spotify and specify a specific amount of hertz, and it will play that tone of the music for you. It can be very long and drawn out like drone music, or it can be light and uplifting. There are so many different subgenres, y'all, and I highly recommend that you check out one that works for you. We're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about some music therapy ideas and interventions. Stay tuned.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Talking about relaxation and music therapy, as well as what music therapy can be used for. Now we're going to talk about some different music therapy ideas and interventions. So first up, you know all those campfire sing-alongs you had to do as a kid, either at camp or family events or for 4-H or Girl Scouts? Or really any time you were in class or someone made you perform a singing icebreaker. Well, it turns out that music therapy sessions for groups or individuals might actually include singing together in a sing-along form. So it doesn't have to be as formal as choir or chorus, but you can do a sing-along with a songbook that the music therapist is into, or you can play plain copies of other types of song lyrics. So just whatever songs help you relax. Then the participants could sing those songs by memory or learn a new song by working it out, just like we used to when we were in elementary school, you guys. So sing-alongs really encourage you to participate in a fun process of making music. And it can also be used to help you out with your breathing exercises. You breathe different ways when you are singing versus exercising versus just sitting around and talking or sitting around and being silent. So you can combine music therapy with other types of therapy or exercises to really get the most out of it. And the best part about that is wherever you go, that's where your voice is. So you can also do this in a variety of contexts. Sing songs together in the car. Go ahead and put on Don't Stop Believin', you guys, or Don't Stop Me Now, or the classic from Four Non-Blondes, What's Going On? So those are some of my friends' favorites, and we all sing them very loudly in the car. You don't have to sing good to sing loud. You guys, you don't have to be a great singer. It's okay. Just go ahead and enjoy it. You can also do what they call blackout songwriting. So in this type of therapy session, your music therapist will give you lyrics to 4 to 5 different choices of songs that are representative of your recovery. So something like overcoming obstacles or struggles. And then as the client, you would go ahead and take some time to read the lyrics and select words from the lyrics to make up your own song. So if you're very creative minded, this might be a really fun exercise for you. And the reason it's called blackout songwriting is that you're essentially blacking out the lyrics you don't want in your own song, and just use the words that you have chosen from the original piece to create your own. So it's called blackout because it's about a leaving out of things, even though you are composing something new from a different musical piece, it is also a leaving behind of others. You can also do musical hangman, you guys. The way it works is someone draws a picture on the board, and you ask everyone else involved to guess the missing word before the picture loses its details. So you're trying to guess a word before a tree loses all of its leaves, or something like that. Then you choose another word and find songs that start with each letter of that word. Then you go ahead and listen to the songs and try to guess the target word. So for example, if your target word is happy, then the H might be from hey ya, and the A might be from automatic. It just really depends. But each letter that the people guess correctly means you get to play the song that goes along with it and sing. This is typically conducted by a music therapist, and they typically will also pick a theme as well as matching the letter along with the concept of this musical hangman. In addition to musical hangman, blackout songwriting, and sing-alongs, you may also participate in blues songwriting. So your music therapist will explain the background of blues, if you're unfamiliar with it, so that you'll understand at least the basics. Then they may ask you to share something that you feel down about or blue about, and to think of a solution to the problem or a coping mechanism, whether that is an emotion-focused coping mechanism or a problem-focused coping mechanism. Then you're going to brainstorm ideas how to make those types of attempts sound poetic via songwriting. And after everyone in this therapy session has been able to write their blues, then you get some improv and sing-alongs. So you'll sing the blues as a group if you are in group therapy in this way, and they'll all follow the same type of melody. Then you can extend that using an iPad. So if you like to use an iPad or any type of keyboard apps, then you could play on the blues scale. Now, in addition to these different types of music therapy and interventions, you can also play some different songs. And there is really a common set that a lot of music therapists steadily rely upon. So these songs are like American Pie, or Don't Worry, Be Happy, The Lion Sleeps Tonight, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, songs like that. You can also perform music therapy activities and exercises specifically for adults. One of the really fun ones that I'm a fan of is improv. So I haven't actually been to music therapy, but I do use music as a source of catharsis in my personal life, whether that be playing the guitar and or singing or humming or whistling. It can all be a lot of fun, and as I say, it's to get the demons out, figuratively speaking. So whenever I participate in improv, I very much love musical improv. And some of my friends and I growing up made musical improv games of our own. However, if you are interested in getting into improv, you should check out local improv groups in your area. They're typically really fun and welcoming in my experience. And although everything is improvised in improv, there is actually a structure you can follow along with. The different types of games that you play, like if you watch Whose Line Is It Anyway, they have names, like the one where you're moving another person's arms and legs is called Mannequin. Or you could do one of the ones you see on Whose Line Is It Anyway, with like the Irish songs. They do a lot of musical comedy on there, especially Wayne Brady. So you can check that out or just read about improv online or in the local ads for your community theater or comedy scene. It's a blast, you guys, at least in my experience. Marshmallow Comedy is absolutely hilarious, and I have not gone on stage with them because I don't enjoy being on stage, but I have gone and practiced with them and had a lot of fun doing that. And even if I'm feeling grumpy before going in, by the end of the session, I generally feel pretty great. It's not intentional therapy, but it does act as therapy in a way. No matter which form of music therapy you select, it can have boundless benefits on your health and wellness. We're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk specifically about wellness music. Stay tuned.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about ideas and interventions for music therapy, including different activities and exercises you can perform, songs that are commonly used, and different types of interventions like sing-alongs or blackout songwriting. Now we're going to talk about a relatively recent trend in music referred to as wellness music. So, wellness music specifically means that folks are using new technologies to capture our biometric data and use that to create new personalized types of music for individuals. It's almost a form of personalized medicine in a way. So, whenever you're stressed or you're upset, you might have a go-to playlist. I have one that is specifically for working out and is quite inventively called Workouts. I also have music for when I am sad or stressed. I have a playlist called Chill and one called Lamentations. They get very specific, you guys. But I have a lot of different playlists based on how I feel. And just like I read books based on emotions, and I like several different genres, but I'm typically reading about 5 to 6 books simultaneously just based on how I'm feeling that day, whether I want a serious memoir or if I want a fun sci-fi or something that's a mystery. We also often listen to music in that way. One of my go-to happy songs is Benny and the Jets. Yep, by Elton John. I love Benny and the Jets, you guys, and it just makes me happy every time I hear it, to the point that if I'm feeling upset, I can intentionally listen to it, and it perks me up. And seeking it out in an intentional way is a form of therapy. Now, I don't want that to be confused in any way with music therapy performed by people who are actually credentialed in this practice and understand the science behind it. But it's like my own personal therapy. It's a stopgap measure when I just need a pick-me-up, So a lot of folks tend to underestimate how much we depend on music to process or manage our emotions. But a lot of studies have shown that humans are hardwired for music, and also they found that no other stimulus positively activates so many regions of the brain. And that includes from the amygdala to your hippocampus. And it can help you out with the powers to boost your mood and memory. So when you think of formal music therapy, it might sound like you're going to be sitting around in a medical building or in some type of school setting and have to listen to these songs together or sing these sing-alongs like around a campfire. but it doesn't necessarily look like that. Music as that intentional therapy is being revolutionized. It's really big in wellness right now, and these concepts are making big waves in the music industry too. So wellness music can come in many forms, and part of it is influenced right now by funding for medical studies on the impact of music on the brain. Some researchers are studying the process of biofeedback. Others are using artificial intelligence and machine learning to look at how the structure of music, like the beat and the chord progression or the timbre, are specifically impacting different biometrics in your body, like heart rate or your brain waves or even your sleep patterns, so that they can help use specific types of music and create new types of music in a precision manner to treat everything from physical pain to PTSD. So there are a lot of new healing playlists on Spotify. There's also a lot of ambient playlists. So I am very into ambient music, as is my buddy Bob, and I prefer a specific hertz range that is a little bit different from the one that he prefers. But we do have a little bit of overlap in our mandorla of our music Venn diagrams, where we like the same type of ambient music in some cases. It helps us to relax. It can just keep us both calm, even though we have very different personality types. Remember that your heartbeat will also settle in time with the music that you're listening to a lot of times. So if I'm having trouble sleeping, I don't want to listen to something upbeat. I want to listen to ambient music or something that is really light and flowing with a slow melody, and that helps me to go to sleep. So we're also, in addition to seeing all of these new playlists on Spotify and other music streaming services, we're seeing more AI-powered musical technology. And they can use your biology and your psychology and any other data that you provide it to give you a unique, always changing soundscape that's meant to improve your specific mental and physical health anytime you want to listen to it. This type of music is referred to as generative music apps. It's made for you. It's generated for you. It sounds absolutely wild, you guys. It's the Jetsons' future, but it's really cool, the leaps and bounds that folks are making, particularly in machine learning. Machine learning is one of my pet interests, and they have been able to do everything from program neural networks to start picking up how to make recipes. And sometimes the recipes are really gross. You have to feed it a lot of different recipes, like thousands, before you can really get it to start making its own. And sometimes it'll make recipes for things like whole chicken cookies, which is my absolute favorite, and something that I can rely on to make me laugh every time I think of it. But as we discussed in previous episodes, they're also able to use machine learning to tell us more about things like how our bodies are reacting in different systems, how our systems within our body interact with each other, and now also how to create new custom playlists to improve individual health and wellness. So just like our health and wellness are holistic, so is the power of machine learning. And so is the power of music. Now, don't get me wrong. Music therapy has been around for a really long time. You can look at many different Eastern cultures to see that. Everything from gong baths to Tibetan singing bowls can be really effective in adjusting our internal feelings and our emotions. So although a lot of times music therapy as a practice has been said to have been created after World War II, that's true in the Western context in this specific formal interpretation of music therapy. But I believe humans have been using music as therapy for a very long time. And I don't mean it in their very formal capacity, but just as a catharsis in general. You can see the powerful impact that music has on our brains and bodies. We get those boosts of dopamine in our pleasure reward centers in our brains from listening to different types of music. And it's extraordinary that you can just get this dopamine hit from something as simple as listening to a creation by a fellow human. Or if you're into whale song, the communication of whales, any other creatures that make these audible noises sound like music to our ears, because that's the way that we perceive it, even if it's technically these other animals interacting with each other. In our sensory and perception experience, it feels like music, and it can uplift us or it can sink us into melancholy, depending on what we are listening to. It can also even help us sleep. But this new genre of generative music as a form of intentional medicine looks like it's going to be a huge trend in 2020 and going way past that point. So you don't have to give up the old types of music that you love. I'm still going to be listening to what I'm familiar with. I'll be listening to jazz standards just as much as I will be listening to electro swing or electronic grime. But I'm also very interested in exploring this new form of generative music and seeing really what these capabilities of AI and music in health and wellness can really bring about. We're going to go on another break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about musicians' health, how listening to music can impact your creativity, and also some specific health benefits of music. Stay tuned.
GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast gives you advice on everything from hair to fashion to skincare products. We'll talk about the latest trends in makeup, hairstyles, and anti-aging remedies. And we'll cover all of the newest fashion trends. If you have an interest in or questions about the beauty trends that might work best for you, the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about health and wellness as it relates to music, and particularly the new trend of generative music in wellness. Now we're going to talk specifically about the health of musicians, as well as some health benefits of music and how music can impact your creativity. So first up, I want to talk about how music can interact with your ability to create. So I found this article a while back and have just been waiting for the opportunity to bring this up with you guys. It's been sitting as a tab open on my computer for probably a month or so. I know I am here talking about the health and wellness of the human body and not respecting that of my computer. But I digress. So now we're talking about it, and I'll be able to get that tab off of my computer. According to Harvard Health, listening to music can be relaxing for you, but it might mess with your creativity. There was a study published online last year in February 2019 by the Applied Cognitive Psychology Journal, and researchers found 30 people and tested their creativity through a bunch of different exercises. And those included things like being shown 3 words at a time and then being asked to add another word to those 3 words to create a new word or a new phrase. So, for example, if you were given the word moon, you could add that to words like struck or shot or landing to make moonstruck, moonshot, or moon landing. And these creativity exercises ranged in difficulty from easy to moderate to hard. They also performed this exercise in different types of noise environments. So they had to perform these tasks in silence, in a situation where they had music with Spanish and English lyrics, another situation with instrumental music only, and also normal background library sounds like people kind of whispering in the background or typing or papers rustling. And they found that no matter which type of music was included, it really impaired folks' ability to complete the creativity tasks. However, the silence and the library noises did not have an effect. So the researchers drew the conclusion that perhaps listening to music is disrupting our verbal working memory. And that is our ability to remember information that we need in order to complete a task or a process or a set of tasks. And it was true even if the people found the music enjoyable or relaxing. So if you are trying to get through your workday by listening to music, even if it is Tchaikovsky or any other type of otherwise voiceless music, instrumental only, although my music teacher would like to point out that the voice is technically an instrument, and I would be remiss to not point that out, but I digress. So with these studies, though, it really means that by listening to music, if you are having to perform a creative task, it may actually not be the best thing for you. You might just want some background noise or silence. And when I was in college, that was my favorite way to study, was to actually go to a place that had background noise, like the cafeteria, where everything just kind of bleeds into the background, and go from there. Now, they didn't really look in this study at louder noises like that, where granted it is louder, but the noises are pretty indistinguishable from each other. So you can't pull out which specific voices are making specific words. And so it all kind of fades into the background. They just did this with silence, with music, and with just background noises in the library. But typically, I would study it like Einstein Brothers bagels, and it would work out really well for me. Granted, it wasn't that super busy either. It was just a little bit louder than the library. So it can really mess with your verbal working memory. And so if you're having trouble concentrating at work, maybe skip the music and try just listening to the background of your office or putting on some headphones without actually plugging them into any music. Now I want to talk to you guys about musicians' health and wellness. When you first talk about musician health and wellness, things like headphones or ear issues, auditory issues, may be the first that come to mind. But it truly depends on what types of instruments the musicians are using. If you're overusing your vocal cords, or you aren't using them appropriately, or you're overusing them, then you can actually injure yourself. There is a woman online who used to train people how to sing opera and is a classically trained musician. And she teaches folks who sing metal music how to get that strength to come through in their voice without actually injuring their voices. It's so cool, and I highly recommend y'all check that out on the internet if you are interested in such things. The crossover of this type of collaboration is really neat. But it can also be things like tendinitis or carpal tunnel from doing the same types of motions a lot. You can have joint pain as well. So it's important, if you're a musician, to keep your body's messages in mind. Really listen to your body to prevent injuries. Make sure you are practicing healthy techniques, that you're strumming your guitar correctly and strumming from the correct joint. In that way, these repetitive motions can be very similar to those experienced in athletic sports. So do work on preventing hearing loss. I do take some earplugs with me whenever I go to concerts. Don't get me wrong, I love concerts and I definitely want to hear the music, but sometimes the sound guy or the venue or the equipment is working in such a way that makes it to just be overwhelming, even with earplugs sometimes. So in order to protect my hearing, I do wear earplugs. And if it turns out that it's soft enough that I can take them out, then I do. It really depends, but I like to keep a box of them in the car just in case I ever should need them. But it's important, if you are a musician, to adapt that instrument to you in certain ways, but also making sure that you're checking out the best practices for keeping your body healthy and preventing hearing loss, dealing with performance anxiety, because mental health is health, you guys. It is holistic, and you also want to make sure that you're giving yourself time to heal and recover from any of your injuries. Now that we have discussed both the health of specifically musicians and how some studies have suggested that listening to music can interfere with your creativity, I want to wrap this up today with talking about some benefits of health and music. So first up, music is heart healthy. You get more blood flow more easily when music is played. It can also reduce your heart rate, lower your blood pressure, and decrease that stress hormone cortisol in your body, in addition to increasing serotonin and endorphin levels in your blood. It can also elevate your mood by stimulating the production of dopamine, which in turn helps relieve anxiety and depression. And it can reduce stress by triggering some biochemical stress reducers in your body. It can also stimulate memories. There's not a cure for Alzheimer's disease or dementia right now, but music therapy has helped out a lot with symptoms. It can help relax an agitated patient, improve their mood, and also promote more open communication. Music can even manage pain. It provides a competing stimulus to the pain signals that are going into your brain. So music therapy can really assist in pain management in that way, and also by reducing those stress levels. It can also increase your workout endurance by getting you pumped for a great workout session. And interestingly enough, it also helps people to eat less. If you play soft music in the background and dim the lights during a meal, it can ostensibly help people slow down while eating and consume less food in one sitting. I would like to see this study replicated in an Olive Garden, which I consider to be one of the darkest chain establishments I've ever been in. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like Olive Garden's really dark, you guys. So I want to see how this shakes out when you put dim lights and soft background music up against unlimited breadsticks. What is the outcome of this competitive bracket? The world may never know, but if you are listening to this and you are a music scientist who also studies health and wellness or appetite, diet, and nutrition, there is your dissertation project. Let me know the results in the comments. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'd like to ask you to subscribe to the show, and writing us a nice review always really helps. Also, if you could please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I'd appreciate it. Thank you kindly, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.
Living with a medical condition can be hard. My health team gives you the support you need. Meet others living with the medical condition and gain insights on managing treatment today at myhealthteam.com.